And okay, good evening, sir, and good evening, everyone. So, um, the topic that I choose or select related in ethics is all about the cultural cultural relativism. So, cultural relativism. So, let's start. Um, Cultural relativism. When we say cultural, it is all about particular group or group of people, their tradition, their beliefs, and habits. So while relativism in Merriam-Webster is all about the belief that different things are true or right for different people and different time. So, so what is cultural relativism? It's the view that all beliefs, customs, and ethics are relative to the individual within his own social context. So, what is cultural relativism? When they combine cultural relativism, means that the view that all beliefs, all customs, and practices depends on the culture in which in which each individual lives or saan doon nakatira. Yun yung culture. And in other words, the right or wrong are cultural specific or it depends on culture. So, yun yung cultural relativism. Different cultures have different moral codes, often is used as a key to understanding morality. Proponents argue that there is not as universal truth in ethics. There are only the various cultural codes and nothing more, or the customs of different societies is all that exists. Um, yes, we have a different cultures because when you go another country like America, Japan, China, Korean, something like that, it's different the moral codes. Um, some to use as a to use as a key to understand morality. So they argue that there is not as universal truth in ethics because when we have a universal truth in ethics, we need to be followed. We need to obey the rule. Uh, the, sabi nga dyan, there are only the various cultural codes and nothing more. So, yun lang yung meron, yung various cultural codes na meron tayo, wala nang iba. And then, the customs, the norms of different societies is all that exists. So, based on my research, consider in cultural relativism, considered moral or good in a culture can be considered bad or immoral in a culture. And since no generation standard of morality exists, no one has the right to judge and no one can say what the customs of a society. No. Walang makapaghuhusga walang makapanghusga kung ano yung tama. Kung tama to, walang magja-judge nun. Kasi nga, wala pa yung pinakang ano ng pamantayan. Wala pang general standard nun. So, kaya hindi pwedeng mag-judge yung isang culture. So next, ethics and culture. Cultural relativism suggests that there is no one right way to behave. Cultural context that determines ethical behavior. Ayan. So, as you can see, there are arrows at both ends. One is cultural relativism and the other one is moral absolutism. So, in cultural relativism, says that no culture's ethics are superior. So, it means that no one can say that a culture is superior because wala namang makapagsasabi na may mataas tong isang to, at mahusay yung isang culture, hindi. Because the values and practices of the local setting determine that determine what is right and wrong, what is right or wrong. Example, in Rome, when you go to a Rome, do as a Roman do. Kung anong ginagawa ng Roman, gagawin mo din. Kasi nakapaloob nga yun nga yung sinabi dyan, because of values and practices na ibinigay ng local yung tiga doon, yung mga tiga Roman. So, next is moral absolutism. So, before that, moral absolutism is an ethical view that all actions are intrinsically right or wrong. Stealing, for instance, might be considered to be always immoral. Ayun. Even if done for well-being of others. Example, stealing food to feed a starving family. And even if it does, it the end promotes such a good. Ayan. Dun sa moral absolutism, nakaano lang dun kung ano yung tama. Tama lang sa lahat. Na kahit kunyari, yung magnanakaw ka para lang dahil dahil nga walang makain, 'di ba yung iba naman kaya nagnanakaw. O kaya dahil nagnakaw para dun sa pamilya niya na walang makain. So kaya siya nagnakaw, yun yung dahilan niya. So kaya minsan yung moral absolutism, yung action niya minsan akala mo tama sa'yo pero mali sa iba. Ganon. So, moral absolutism, certain absolute truth apply everywhere. So, ina-apply everywhere. Saan? Then, dyan pa, nakapalog yung universal values. Pag sinabing universal, dapat ginagawa ng lahat, ganon. Transcend culture in determine what is right or wrong. Example, don't do anything you wouldn't do at home. Yun yung moral absolutism. Next is cultural influence our perception of what is right and wrong. So, ano ba yung na-influence ng culture? Based on our perception, kung ano yung what is right and wrong. So, some schools of thought believe that everyone has their own ethics. Yan. So, kapag may nagtuturo, syempre, ano man yung tinuturo, naniniwala tayo. Yan nga, that everyone has their own ethics. Kasi nga, lahat tayo may own perception, may own view, yan, na hindi kayang anuhin ng iba. Kasi nga, sarili natin yun. Sarili natin pagkakaunawa yun. Then, this means what is considered right or wrong depends on the time, place, and even the particular preferences or practices of a group of people or individual. 'Person. And, Next is normative ethics, deals with how we should behave and live our lives, particularly when our actions affect others. So, dyan, kung paano tayo makideal sa ibang tao, how to deal other people and live our lives, particularly when our actions uh, affect others. Sometimes we are thinking, what should I do? What should we do? And it is right, tama ba to? O mali ba to? Mali ba to yung ginagawa natin? Ganon. Kasi, minsan gumagawa tayo na sa atin ng, pero nakakasakit tayo sa ibang tao. Ganon. So, yun yung na minsan nai-influence ng culture sa atin. Kung ano yung tama o mali. So, example, here in the Philippines, premarital sex is morally unacceptable. But when you go another country, teenagers want to lose their virginity at a very young age, di ba? But in the Philippines, hindi natin ina-accept yun. So, yun yung other example pa. Sa Pilipinas, here in the Philippines, we do not cease to debate on the moral acceptability of contraceptives. In other country, abortion is perfectly. So, nagagawa doon. Normal sa kanila yung magpa-abort. Pero dito, hindi, di ba? Isa pang example, one society make any prohibition on women. While in another society, inaalaw nila yung women to have an equal kung anong ginagawa ng mga lalaki. Kung ano yung kayang gawin ng lalaki, dapat ganun din yung ginagawa ng mga babae. So, ganun. Something like that. So, next, values versus attitudes. So, under values, moral principle or moral ethics or standard of behavior. So, under siya ng values, while in attitudes, opinion or stances about a certain subject matter or a person. Next, under ng values pa, a part of a person character. So, yung character natin, under siya ng values. Ano yung character natin na ginagawa. So, next, in attitude naman, a part of a personality. Ano yung personality natin? So, doon yun, nakapaloob din sa attitude. So, next is showbiz. Showbiz yan, Brad. Hindi, not showcase. Showbiz. Showbiz a particular person's moral ethics and his overall character. So, dyan, under din yan ng values. Kasi, in moral ethics natin, syempre, yung ng right or wrong, na yun ng whole character natin. So, yung sa attitude naman, highlight a person's behavior through the personality. So, sa attitude, highlight, kung ano yung nakikita mo ugali ng isang tao, nakikita mo through personality. Makikita mo na agad, ito, ganito pala yan. So, maha-highlight, makikita mo na agad. Yan. So, next is, under pa rin siya ng values is directly influences by family, friends, culture, religion, and social interaction. So dyan, sa values din, nakadirect yung pag-influence ng pamilya natin, ng family natin, ng friends natin, kung saan tayo nabebelong sa religion, kung anong meron din, kung anong religion natin, kung anong culture natin, kung paano tayo mag-interact sa ibang tao, ganon. Then, sa attitude, directly influenced by a person's values. So, yun nga, yung sinabi ko, katulad din sa values. Kung ano yung meron sa values, ganun din yung sa attitude. Nai-influensyahan siya ng isang tao. Na-influensya ng family, friends, culture, religion, and social interaction. Next is, under pa rin ang values, is moral ethics. So, yun yung moral ethics natin, under siya ng values. Sa attitude naman, can be negative and positive. So, pwede ko negative yung attitude natin, yung positive or positive ba, ganun. So, effects of cultures. Determines how people communicate. So, dyan, culture refers in the shape of values, beliefs, and norms of a specific group of people. Yun yung kahulugan ng culture. And influence the manners. Yan. Na-influence siya din kung saan tayo culture nasasakop or naaangkop. Kung saan dun tayo natututo, naninirahan yon. So, determines how people communicate. In the effects of cultures, there will enter how people communicate. What can you learn? What can you learn from them as we communicate? Yan. Next is how people interact. So dito, how people interact, here you will learn how to interact with someone. So when you communicate and when you interact people, may matututunan ka, may maiintindihan ka sa kanya habang nakakausap mo siya. Ayan. Then, next is how people related to one another. So, here, once you communicate, once you interact people, you will know while you are talking. Yan. And you will think there is something connected or same kung ano yung pinag-uusapan nyo. Kasi once na nag-uusap kayo, ayan, maiisip mo na lang, habang tumatagal yung conversation nyo, paano nyo na, may kaparehas ko siya, ganito pala siya. So, ganun. Kaya minsan, naiisip mo na lang, parehas kami ng taong ko. Ganun. Next is, what is appropriate behavior? Ano ba yung angkop na pag-uugali? Ayan. Next is, religions, ethics, and cultures. So, religion. Religion is a system of shared beliefs about the sacred. So, once you hear religion or once you hear the word religion, it is holy. It is divine. Ayan. Yan, sinabi nga dyan, beliefs about sacred, deserving great respect. Yan. Sa bawat, may iba't iba tayong religion. Kailangan i-respect natin ano yung religion ng bawat isa, born again ka man, dating daan ka man, INC ka man. So, we need to respect kung anong merong religion siya. Because religion is sacred. Next is ethical Ethical system. Ethical system is moral principles or values that shape and guide behavior, often products of religion. So, ethical, it is all about morally right or wrong. And yan, mas naano pa siya ng religion. So, naano siya na, mas kailangan siya, napaproduct siya of religion. Kasi nga, ito yung maano natin na, dito tayo matututo sa religion, and syempre dito natin matututo na, malalaman din natin na, tama to. Ito yung dapat kong gawin, ito yung dapat na hindi ko dapat gawin. Yun. Doon tayo ma-shape. Because of religion, doon tayo ma-shape, doon tayo mag-guide. Kasi nga, malalaman natin kung ano yung tama o mali. So, yun yung ethical system. So, next is major religion. Ito yung mga major religious group and some economic implication. First is Christianity. So, Christianity, ito yung economic implication niya ay Protestant work ethics. Yan. Next is Islam. So, the economic implication of Islam is Islamic economic principle. Doon sila, yun yung implication ng Islam. Islamic economic principle. Next is Hinduism. Hinduism is anti-materialistic, socially stratified, conceptual. Yan. Buddhism is materialistic, social equality. So last is Confucianism. Sa Confucianism, ito yung hierarchy, yung loyalty and honesty nila. Yun yung major religious group and some economic implication. So, cultural relativism defined. Yes. Excuse me. So, ethical relativism is the theory which claims that because different societies have different ethical beliefs, there is no rational way of determining whether an action is moral right or wrong other than asking whether the people of this or that society believe is morally right or wrong. So, cultural relativism is closely related to ethical relativism, which believes that there are many facts and they are relative and not just one. The right and wrong depends on the right and wrong depends on the beliefs of individual. Yan. Kung ano yung pinaniniwalaan mo na kung sa'yo ba ay tama ito o mali. Ayan. Nakadepende yun sa'yo at saka sa society. And because of reality is changing, there is no an objective standard to be applied to the practice of all cultures. No one can tell if a person is wrong or right. Yan. Yun yung nasabi ko kanina na walang makakapag-judge na tao, hindi pwede niyang husgahan. It depends on one person. It depends on one person's personal opinion. Personal opinion, views, and no societies can judge another societies. Ayan. Walang makapaghuhusga kung anong meron dun sa isang society. Hindi natin pwedeng husgahan kung anong meron dun. Kasi, yun yung kanila eh. Meron din tayo. Because of culture, relativists believe that all cultures are entitled to their own right and the same values as other cultures. So, yun yung cultural relativism defined. So, cultural relativism, meron siyang strength and weaknesses. So, dito muna tayo sa strength. So, cultural relativism recognize, ito yung strength ng cultural relativism. So, recognize the anthropological fact of diversity. Sa dyan, mare-recognize mo yung race, culture, and the state that having people who are different race, different origin of cultures. So, diversity. Next is recognize the influence of cultures on our formation. Yan. Ito naman yung mare-recognize natin yung paano tayo ma-impluwensyahan ng culture based sa ating formation. Ayan. Next is may create attitude or tolerance, critic, or ethnocentricism. So, dyan, pag sinabing attitude of tolerance is willing to accept what you see in other. Ano man yung nakikita mo sa ibang tao, kailangan mong i-accept. Yan. Like, kung ano man yung culture niya, ano man yung feelings niya, o, ayun, kailangan mo lang siyang i-accept. So, ethnocentrism, ethnocentrism, according to Merriam-Webster, based on the idea that your own group or culture is better or more important than other. So, yun yung ethnocentrism. Kung ano yung culture na meron ka, ayan, mas inaano mo na better yun. Kaysa wala kang pakialam kung anong meron dun sa iba. Mas importante yung culture mo kaysa sa iba. So, next is cultural relativism weaknesses. May tanong dyan. Are culture all that different? Yan. Are culture all that different ba? So, kung ano sa akin, yes, culture are different. Kasi, hindi man lahat ay pare-paras sa yung culture. So, yun nga, minsan nga, di ba, ang culture, minsan nga, may pag-iinggit pa eh. Kasi, yung ganito yung culture na ang ganda-ganda naman. But, tapos minsan naano mo pa yung culture natin, kung anong meron. So, dapat maging proud tayo kung ano yung culture na meron tayo. Be thankful. Ayan. Kasi, wala naman tayong ding choice eh. Wala naman tayong gagawa. Next, even if cultures do not share common moral rules or values, can we conclude that no universal principle exists? Diyan, even if cultures do not share, kung hindi ba magbibigay yung culture ng moral or rules, yung values, makukonclude ba to na hindi universal principle exists? So, yun, yung yung weaknesses. So, under none, policy. Policy, yung meaning lang ng policy is, policies are mistaken beliefs based on unsound argument. They derive from reasoning that is logically incorrect, thus undermining an argument validity. So, yun yung meaning ng policy. So, ano lang ang policy is appeal to ignorance. So, ano yung appeal to ignorance? So, appeal to ignorance is this argument claims that lack of evidence automatically prove that something is untrue. So, dyan, kiniklaims na nila yung itong argument na to ay kulang sa ebidensya na sinabi niya automatically proves that something is untrue na hindi minsan totoo. So, example dito, if ghosts actually did exist, kung daw yung multo ay nag-exist, someone would have discovered an undeniable proof of this by now. and no such proof has been found. Therefore, ghosts do not exist. Ayan nga. Tama naman, hindi mo talaga nag-exist yung multo, syempre. Ano-ano lang yung iba, natatakot lang, or minsan sa sarili mo na lang yun, based sa nararamdaman mo, ganito, na may multo. So, yun. Pero ako, hindi rin naman din ako naniniwala dun. So, kasi hindi ko naman din nakikita. Pati alam ko naman na wala naman talaga kasi may Diyos tayo. Yeah. So, siguro ito na yung last slide. Basahin ko to. This logically fallacy occurs when someone claims that a conclusion must be true if it hasn't been proven false, or false if it hasn't been proven true. Yun yung logically fallacy yun. Na yung iba nagkiklaim sila or nagkukuklud na agad sila na totoo yun kahit hindi naman. Pero yung iba naman nagsasabi na hindi totoo kahit nagpo-prove naman na totoo yun. Yun. Pero depende na lang yun sa atin. Nasa sarili mo na lang naman kung maniniwala ka, di ba? Isa pang example, you can prove that you are innocent. Yan, mapuprove mo na ikaw yung hindi ka inosente, but therefore you are guilty to me. Yan. Guilty ka sa akin, ganon. Yun yung example ng appeal to ignorance. So, ito yata, last na yata to. So, yun lang yung topic ko about cultural relativism, na kung susumahin natin na ang cultural relativism ay may iba't ibang view, or yung beliefs, yung customs, and practices ay nakadepende siya sa culture. So, ano man yung ginagawa ano man yung inaano ng culture sa society, yun yung pinaniniwalaan nila. Doon sila nakadepende. Sabi nga, di ba, hindi tayo pwedeng manghusga ano man yung meron sa isang society. Wala tayong karapatang manghusga. Tingnan na lang natin, makinig man, pero hindi natin dapat husgahan agad-agad. Kailangan natin ng ano yung tamang gawin. Yan. So, yun lang. Thank you po. Thank you sa pakikinig. At I hope may naintindihan kayo. So, thank you and God bless everyone.